Turning to Capitol Hill, where President Trump's agenda is in limbo one day before it's set to come up for a key vote in the Rules Committee. After more meetings today, there's still no deal consensus among Republicans on capping the state and local tax deduction, the issue that has several moderate Republicans withholding their support. At the same time, some hardliners are digging in for more spending cuts that kick in and for them to kick in sooner. Speaker Johnson said meetings will continue over the weekend to find an agreement, and that will take some give and take. Take a listen.
Not everybody's going to be delighted with every provision in a bill this large, but everyone can be satisfied, and we're very, very close to that. If you do more on SALT, you have to find more in savings. So these are the dials, the metaphorical dials I'm talking about. That's what is involved here. When you're trying to craft a piece of legislation that is this comprehensive and this complex, it requires a lot of thought and deliberation.
My NBC News colleague Sahil Kapoor is on Capitol Hill with all of the latest. So, Sahil, I know you've been running around trying to get us an answer. What's the latest on President Trump's agenda on Capitol Hill? Are things getting better or worse for House Republicans? Is Speaker Johnson in for a big headache here, or are they really trying to get through with this massive bill?
Well, Yamiche, if you listen to the way Speaker Johnson is talking, you would think things are getting better. The reality of the situation is I'm not convinced that that's the case, because simply the policy disputes seem very significant on a whole bunch of issues. You mentioned SALT, the state and local deduction. That's one of them. There's also a major debate happening within the Republican conference about Medicaid and the cuts and the various spending restrictions that they're putting on accessing Medicaid benefits. There's also a question of SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, what they do with that. Take a listen to how Congressman Nick LaLota, a New York Republican from Long Island, talked about where they are now.
Still got a lot of work to do, not just on SALT, but on SNAP, on Medicaid, and some of the government benefits issues. Still got a lot of work to do if we're going to get this plane to land here in the next week. We're not further, but we're probably not closer either. Still a lot of specifics that need to be hashed out.
Now, it's true that committees have passed their various pieces and sent them to the budget panel, which is basically supposed to staple them together and move them to the House floor. But we also know some of those committee products are not ready for prime time, especially the tax legislation, which LaLota and several other Republicans are threatening to tank unless they find a compromise, specifically on the state and local tax deduction. So there's plenty of work to do, because moving one of the dials on the state and local tax piece is going to affect the entire rest of the package and could potentially alienate Republicans on the other end.
And as you talk about all of these different factions, we almost seem that almost every time there's inter-conference fight here with Republicans, moderates are the ones that end up caving and giving in here. So is that what we're looking at here ultimately, given the fact that we're seeing the way things are developing?
Well, historically, that is how things have traditionally worked in the House when Republicans are in the majority. The hardliners have tended to flex because they've been willing to tank the bills, and the moderates and the centrists and vulnerable and swing districts have caved because they're ultimately not willing to go against the party line. In this case, I'm not so sure, Yamiche, because the House Freedom Caucus has softened a lot this year. They've threatened to tank this budget in various iterations of it. They've threatened to tank the spending bill that Donald Trump was in favor of, but they ultimately cave at the end because these members represent dark red districts where their constituents also want them to be cheerleaders for the Trump agenda and not obstacles for it. So I don't exactly know where this is going to land. What I do know is that these so-called SALT caucus members are deadly serious. Their predecessors lost re-election in those districts in those areas because they supported that $10,000 imposition, that limit in the 2017 Trump tax law, and they are not ready to tolerate this $30,000 cap that House Republican leaders are proposing to them. And then you got the hardliners who are demanding steep spending cuts of trillions of dollars. Right now, this bill adds trillions of dollars to the long-term national debt. That goes against everything they say they believe in. So where does this shake out at the end? And where does that leave the politically vulnerable members who worry about Medicaid, the single biggest thing that they're being targeted by Democrats? A lot of open questions.
Yeah, and another question, are they going to be able to do it before the Memorial Day recess? We'll see. Thank you so much, Sahil. I appreciate your reporting.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.